Hello, Mr. Boydston here. And today we are going to talk about making connections text to text. All right, I am going to begin with a story that you've never heard before. This is a story called The Three Little Possums. One day, there were three little possums, and the mother possum said to the three little possums, "Today is the day that you have got to find your own tree to live in." So the first possum went away and looked for the first tree he could find, and he found a small tree that was very close by. The second possum looked through the trees, and he found a tree that was a little bit taller, and he decided to go ahead and make his home in that tree. The third little possum searched and searched and searched. He didn't want to find a short tree or a medium tree. He wanted to find a tall tree. So that's what he did. Then one day, there was a mean old bobcat, and that bobcat wanted to hunt for a possum. So he was looking through the forest and he found a possum hanging out in a very short tree. And that bobcat could climb that tree really easily. So he did, and he chased that possum to the next tree. And when he saw that tree, there were two possums in it. He thought he was so lucky. And this tree wasn't very tall either, and he could climb that tree very easily too. So he did. Now, before I continue the story, I want you to think. What do you think happens at the end of this story? What happens to the three little possums? Well, if you said that all the possums climbed into the tallest tree, the tree where the bobcat couldn't reach them, then you'd be correct. Now, how did you guys know that that's how the story was going to end? How did you know that the three little possums were going to end up in the tallest tree? You were able to do that because, as good readers, we make connections not only with events in our lives, but we also make connections with other books that we've read. So when we read a story and we can connect it to another story that we've read in the past, it helps us better understand the story. So whenever I told you about the three little possums, you probably remembered reading the story about the three little pigs. Now, they're not the exact same story, but they're very similar. And this happens a lot with stories that we read. A lot of stories were inspired by stories that came before it. And when we make connections between two different books that we've read before, that means that we are better able to understand the story. So here's what I want you to do today. We are going to reread The Invisible Boy. And as you read this book today, I don't want you to think about making connections with events in your life. Instead, I want you to think about making connections with books that you have read before. It could be any book, any story that you've read before that makes you better able to understand the story. Okay, happy reading.